we doing?
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 2534.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Here's the podcast where Mike Matthews comes to you every day. Well, I try. It's difficult sometimes, and I'm not gonna lie. There are things that get in my way. I guess you would hear someone like me say, it is tough. If you teach, I have such respect for you.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
The amount of patience you have to have. I'm not a full-on teacher.
Mike's
but I like to teach.
Daily
I like to share knowledge.
Podcast.
But some people are so frustrated.
Yeah!
What frustrates me is those who don't listen. It's like I'm trying to teach you, and I'm not talking about a class. I don't teach people in front of a class. I'm teaching people one-on-one. I'm training them to do certain things. And when they don't listen to the words I am saying, and they just kind of zip along, and they're getting even further into mistake land, what can you do? It's like I have to raise my voice. I have to go into Mike sounds like a rooster early in the morning. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's almost like a Seinfeld thing. But yeah, that's what I have to do. And I it's like, listen, stop, slow down. You're going further into mistake land, and you don't need to. If you just listen to me, life will be easy. I want to get you to the right place. I want you to get to the right spot. But people don't listen. It's crazy. I try to listen. I am a person who, when you talk to me, I stop all action. I do not want to...
And here's today's podcast picture.
I do not want to disrespect you in any way. When you're talking to me, I want you to give me whatever it is you're trying to say. Give me the information. And sometimes when I sit there and after 5 minutes, I realize all you're doing is talking about yourself and about glory days and all kinds of stuff I don't care about. The Lake Rebounds of the Boxer. Oh, yes, he was the best listener of all time. So I try to, but when you waste my time, when you are Colum from Dairy Girls, that's when I really, and that is a reference to any of you who watch that show on Netflix. I don't think it is, I don't know how wildly popular it is in America, but it is a fantastic 3-season show, a wonderful comedy. You gotta watch it with subtitles, because they are talking with some thick Irish accents. But it is all about living life in Ireland, Northern Ireland, in the mid to late 90s. Liam Neeson shows up in the 3rd season. And every actor on that show is fantastic. And the writing is fantastic. And And it was also a learning experience. Because I didn't know, I mean, we've all heard U2's Sunday Bloody Sunday, but really the nitty gritty about all that was about and the repercussions and what life was like,
Mike,
living in Ireland, Northern Ireland at that time.
Mikey Fikey, great.
And the difference of being Catholic and Protestant and all this stuff, Anglican and everything, is fascinating. So, great show. I would even, it's one of those shows, those very, very few modern shows, because they started filming it about 3 years ago. It is one of the only shows I will rewatch. There was stuff I missed that was just so fantastic. And they never went for the totally easy joke. They went for something that was a little more intellectual and would surprise you. Just fantastic. Oh, no mistake land there. The podcast picture I forgot to mention is of a beautiful house somewhere in Podcastro Valley. And they had their cool Christmas lights on. And it's the first year I've seen them with all these Christmas lights, this particular house, and it looks great. This particular house looks great. I can't do an Irish. I go Scottish or something. I don't know what that accent is. A lot of stuff happened this week. There was a skin cancer vaccine that was announced that shows early promise. An experimental mRNA cancer vaccine from Moderna was effective against melanoma when combined with Merck's immunotherapy known as Keytruda. The combo reduced the risk of recurring skin cancer or death by 44% compared to those who received Keytruda alone. Melanoma accounts for the majority of skin cancer deaths. It's an interesting piece of info. You probably also heard that Elon Musk said he will not pay rent, or Twitter has not paid rent for its San Francisco HQ or its other global offices in recent weeks. It's trying to trim costs. And Elon Musk is no longer the richest person in the world. Tesla stock continues to fall. He is now the second richest person in the world behind Bernard Arnault. And that family, Bernard is the CEO of the French conglomerate LVMH. Ticketmaster is still getting themselves into trouble, and they are facing a fine after the Puerto Rican artist Bad Bunny. They were trying to sell tickets, and apparently an unprecedented number of people were sold fake tickets to Bad Bunny's concert. Lego My Ego, the waffle company, they were fined $85,000 for a toxic gas release back in January, not of this year, but of last year, at a waffle factory in San Jose. Which is just an odd headline. So, the FTX controversy last week, there was the arrest of the crypto exchange's former CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, or Fried, because he's been fried in the Bahamas. He was charged with 8 counts, including wire fraud and conspiracy. It is one of the current FTX CEO, John Ray III, says FTX represents one of the worst business failures he's ever seen. And interestingly, he oversaw the collapse of Enron. As we go outside a cafe anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere in Podcastro Valleyton, the last place on earth, there apparently was an unprecedented lack of documentation, no record keeping whatsoever. And the QuickBooks, which is something that you or I would do our taxes with if we had a very easy tax portfolio situation. Well, QuickBooks is what this company, FTX, the crypto exchange, was using. Yes, their $32 billion finances. It was also said at the hearing, this is really just old-fashioned embezzlement. This is just taking money from customers and using it for your own purpose. No sophistication at all. Apparently, FTX spent $256 million on 35 properties in Bahama real estate. And now the government for the island of the Bahamas wants it back. It says here, Congress considers crypto consumer protection bill that Sam Bankman-Fried backed before FTX collapse. Okay. So, there you go. That interesting bit. Now, there's some other bizarre stuff that has to do with a particular president that we had a few years back. Even Steve Bannon and other key advisors to former President Trump have had enough of his latest stunts. This according to the New York Post, demanding everyone behind his wacky NFT collection be fired today. And you cannot look at this NFT collection or the commercial that Trump did for it and not say the word wacky. Steve Bannon said once again on his show, The War Room, which is getting mentioned more and more these days. He said, I can't do this anymore. He was talking about the NFT, the non-fungible tokens. Trump's key strategist maintained that the man he helped get. So Steve Bannon maintains that this is that Trump is one of the greatest presidents in history, and said he still loves the folks working for him, including his communications team, but we're at war and they ought to be fired today, firmly. Bannon noted that you don't have three harder cores of Trump supporters than him and Dr. Sebastian Gorka and Steve Cortez. So he's saying that those three, himself included, are the best. And Gorka, whom I've met, who's slightly taller than me and likes to talk about 80s music, so I have that common ground with him when I meet him from time to time. But they were all like, what is going on? Trump's latest stunt should never have happened, in fact, Sebastian said. He was Trump's deputy assistant and is now, of course, the host of a national radio show called America First. Whoever wrote that pitch should be fired and should never be involved in any part of Trump's 2024 campaign. We don't have time to waste. The president should not be involved with this, he said. Cortez went even further, calling for a firing of everybody helping Trump at Mar-a-Lago, not just those involved in the cringeworthy NFT release. And he also stressed that we can't absolve President Trump of his responsibility for the fiasco. It's his campaign. It's his operation. He has to get focused. He has to get really focused. And he said that the video Trump released is something he would expect from quirky Trump supporters like Diamond and Silk, but not the 45th president. Donald Trump should not be doing this kind of video. You really got to watch it if you haven't seen it. Right now, I've got these non-fungible tokens. They're really great, they're the best, they're huge. The video shows a lack of discipline and focus, said Cortez, and to take on the intelligence community is going to require unbelievable, steely discipline and focus. Trump, by the way, also was slammed for another round of threats and incitement yesterday after evoking last year's January 6th insurrection and then telling his followers it's time now for the FBI and Justice Department thugs to be dealt with. Critics considered the threatening messages to be a clear dog whistle to his supporters, many of whom are armed. Some 62% of gun owners voted for Trump in 2016, and his Oath Keeper supporters had a massive stockpile of weapons stashed in the Washington, D.C. area last January 6th to support Trump in the event he tried to seize control of the government and remain in power, according to trial evidence. This from Huffington Post. The Huffington Post. Trump baselessly insisted in a Truth Social post that the FBI was absolutely involved in a coordinated effort to change election results and to make him a loser. That justified last year's violent January 6th protest at the U.S. Capitol, and he insisted, even though nearly 1,000 rioters have been indicted for crimes related to the insurrection that day, now Trump is urging his followers on Truth Social that the weaponized thugs and tyrants in the FBI and DOJ must be dealt with. Trump supporters on Truth Social responded by blasting the FBI as the Gestapo and members of organized crime, which could put agents' lives in jeopardy among Trump acolytes. And it is so funny. It's like Republicans love hating the FBI until they love the FBI for doing something that bashes the Democrats. And then they're like, oh, FBI, you got to be behind them because, without, we're going to have all kinds of terrorists everywhere. And those crazy Antifa, you got to have the FBI on them. And Sylvester Stallone fans fume as he missed out on Rocky Meet and Greet. Rocky fans have been left heartbroken after an event with Sylvester Stallone. Allegedly, he sold more photo op packages than time allowed for. He was booked for Experience with Sylvester Stallone Live, an event sponsored by a company called Experience With, where fans book tickets to have dinner, hear the Rocky star talk on stage, and bid on signed memorabilia. Here's the deal, everybody. Never, ever, ever, ever pay money to see a celebrity. Ever. They will always shortchange you. Always. You are going to meet them for all of a minute and all that money. Some people paying $1,250 to meet Stallone. And then all you get is a picture? And what do you say to people? Oh yeah, I got a picture with Stallone. How much was that picture? $1,250? Was it worth it? Yeah, I met him for 1 minute. Listen. What you're gonna maybe just if you ever come to California, if you are not in California, you may just run into a celebrity. If you live in New York, you may run into a celebrity. It happens. If you meet them, it's free. It's a wonderful experience. It just happened. Happenstance. Everything happened all at once. It was meant to be. It was kismet. Not paying to meet them. And they're just going to fill you with stupidity, stupid little placating words that don't mean nothing. You're not going to get anything out of the experience. I don't get it. People pay money for the craziest experiences. If you do pay money for an experience, don't pay a lot. Unless it's something like you're traveling up the Congo or you're going somewhere fascinating, like a travel-related thing, but not just to meet a celebrity. I do not get that. All right, enough of that. Enough of my wisdom for you today. Some people, I'm not saying I have a lot of listeners. I don't think I have any. If you're a listener, why don't you give me a call, 336-MM Daily. That's 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast is. And keep that number handy in your head, because we're going to be doing a little feud here that you can decide the winner. A little contest. But first, look who's outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valleyton. The last place on earth.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, Gift Shop Supervisor. Who's Sylvester Stallone?
He was this guy. He played Rocky. Rocky's the name of the kitten that's at my house that causes a lot of clutter because there's a lot of little houses and toys and little places for him to play on and whatnot and forts. So it's a massive. My house looks like a Pet Food Express threw up.
That's great, Mike Matthews. We sell some pet toys at my shop here at Cafe Anyway.
That's fantastic. Yeah, last show we were talking about how pet shops in New York are going to stop selling animals that come from breeders, that come from, mills and factories and whatnot, which is great because, the pet industry, just buying food and toys and all the accoutrement that comes with having a pet, that should keep you in business as it is. Why you gotta sell these poor animals that have been through hell in these factories? That's ridiculous. They should only have rescued animals at pet shops. Look who else is here. Hello, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Yes, Mike, we agree with you. And we also agree with that thing you were talking about earlier before the show started. Well, let me think back to before the show started. What were you talking about? Yes, I don't know how to say this on the podcast and really describe if this is really a thing that perhaps you can relate to. Because hosts of podcasts and hosts of radio shows and TV shows, basically any host or presenter, if as they are called, if you're in England, They're all trying to just say things that will relate to you, that you can relate with. A reference that you can catch and understand and go, oh yeah, huh? But I don't know if this is something that you would get. This relies on you watching YouTube. If you've ever watched YouTube, you've got a lot of amateurs on YouTube. I'm not saying it's all amateurs, but there's a lot. And I find watching the amateur channels to be interesting. I'm talking specifically those who go to travel destinations and go, oh, hey, today we're at this museum. It's the Museum of Fuzz. And, oh, it's fascinating. Let's walk around. Let's see this. And, oh, there's that. And, well, amateurs, a lot of amateurs, don't fully appreciate filming styles. Perhaps they have watched movies and TV shows. Perhaps they've even watched the news. But there are some basic rules as a camera person that you need to realize. Even if you're dealing with one of those tiny little Canon cameras that you're holding onto with a little post sticking out the bottom, a little hand-holding thing that also turns into a mini tripod. And that is this. People are watching you now, not just on little phones. They're watching you on big flat screen TVs. And when you are walking around the museum and you suddenly take the camera and go, oh, look at this room, and you swish the left to right. You do this panorama shot, this pan shot, as they call it in the movies. You just go zip left to right, super fast. You are going to make me throw up. That's too much motion. I get motion sickness with that kind of thing. I can't take that. I wrote to a guy that I watch. His name is Micah. I wrote to him on YouTube. He hasn't responded yet. He probably won't. He seems to be a little bit too all about himself and doesn't care about his fans. Even though he does on his show, on his channel, he goes, hey, I want to thank you guys. I wouldn't be here because of you. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys. Thanks, guys. All that. When really, in fact, he doesn't care. And I told him, listen, Micah, when you walk into a room and you're like, oh, look at this big room, don't take the camera and go from left to right super fast or right to left and just fling your camera around. Hold the camera steady is all I'm trying to say, and be cognizant, be respectful to the eyes that are watching what you're filming. I want to see where you're going, Micah, but don't give me motion sickness. Hold the camera steady. And it's not just him, it's a bunch of YouTubers out there. Chris the girl, she responds though, she's very cool. But you gotta hold that camera steady. I know, sometimes you're walking through a haunted whatever. They call them haunts. Spooky houses, haunted houses, with the scare actors, the jump scare actors and whatnot. I understand, you're gonna be walking through one of those and someone jumps out at you and oh my gosh, the camera's gonna wiggle and whatnot. But don't show a little compassion. Show a little empathy for the people watching. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's 7:30. I gotta wrap this up. So, time now for the segment called Let's Go Back with Matthews. We're going back in time to a much simpler time when Mike didn't have all the problems that he has today. And this is a radio show I did 20 years ago. It was called the Hey Santa Fe Cafe. It was a country station. I would get calls. I was on late at night. And I get some interesting people calling. Let's listen to something that happened on the radio 20 years ago. Shall we? The original singer of that tune, Keith Whitley, When You Say Nothing at All, on 100.7 KHAY. We got on the way new stuff from Michael Peterson. Also, Martina McBride, Randy Travis, Dixie Chicks, Rascal Flatts on the way next. And at 10:46, another chance to win Anthony Smith's new CD featuring that great song, If That Ain't Country. And that will get you entered in the KH Trip to the Country contest, where you could win tickets to Knoxville, Tennessee to hang out and party and go crazy at a hotel in Gatlinburg,
Gatlinburg, and also to check out Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Oh, man! We gave that away? Wow. That was all. So record companies do that. I don't know if you know this, but in the radio world, I don't know exactly how KH does it now, but back then, they would agree to play that song that was called That Ain't Country by some artist that I never heard of again. But the record company was, hey, we'll take some of you. We'll if you have a winner, we'll send them off to Gatlinburg. We'll pay for the plane ticket and show them a good time. But you just got to make sure you got to play that song. A lot of radio stations do that. And somebody got to go to Gatlinburg and to Pigeon Forge. Wow. Which I watch a lot of people on YouTube that go to those places. Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg. There's all kinds of rides, and they go to the top of the mountains and see the great views. Lots of restaurants, people filming their food, and all that wonderful, engaging video that they film. But somebody got to go to that. And that Anthony Daniels, or was that his name? But we never heard from him again, apparently. Okay, let's continue.
Ooh, yeah, Dollywood. There's a lot to see at Dollywood. And not just for the men. There's a lot to see in anybody's eyes, especially if they are a country fan. The Country Queen!
What? Not just for the men?
It's a nightmare of a show.
What does that mean, Mike? Or did I say mint? I said the men? Wow. At Dollywood? Why would that be? Is it Dolly Parton? Because she's pretty? What is it about Dolly Parton particularly you find pretty or attractive, Mike? 20 years ago. All right, let's just see who won the quiz.
From Ventura, enjoy. Oh, no, actually the answer was B, Road Rules. That means you get the prize by default, Tony. Yay! From Ventura, enjoy the filibuster.
Road Rules was the answer to that one. That's how far back that was. Is that even on the air anymore? Road Rules. Okay, and now the segment called, so that was Let's Go Back with Matthews, and now here is the Mike Matthews New Tunes Feud. I'm going to play you 2 new songs. You tell me which one you like better, and all you got to do is call me at 336MM Daily or email me which one you like better. Here is an artist named, this is Pop 2, is that correct? Or is it perhaps, let's see. Someone else's song, wanna sing along, get all the words wrong. There's nothing to understand. I don't understand. Anyone says they can. Oh, you know what? Actually, that's the name of the song. The name of the artist is Check, 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 which is 3 exclamation points together. And I believe Check, Check, Check has been around for a while. So that was a little bit of the song. This is Pop 2. And now let us listen to someone else. Do you like this song better? This is Unwed Sailor. And their song Mais Oui. All right, that's all I can play of that. So which one do you like better? Check, 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 or Unwed Sailor? Call me 336MM Daily. 3 plus 3 equals 6. MM as in Mike Matthews Daily, as in what this podcast tries to be and occasionally gets interrupted because of all the people that don't listen to him, taking up his time and causing him issues. Interesting. Unwed Sailor, their new album is called Mute the Charm. That is a good thing. You know, some people spread a little too much charm around and try to charm you when they have really bad motives that you can't trust. Food for thought, as most of this podcast has been. Next show, it'll be Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. And with more ways to reach me, it's A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!